Well, hey, everybody, it is Pastor Martin. Grateful to have you with me on this Thursday night. It's a little late, but I'm here. Thank you so much for joining me. Please do me a favor, share this with someone, and just share. Like, give me some thumbs up, some hearts. I'm gonna try my best to be very brief tonight as we talk tonight. I want to talk to you about. You see the subject. I want to talk to you about uh, shrink your circle, and it's very important. I think that we recognize that. So many of us we don't catch a hold of that. We sort of try to expand and make it where everyone can be a part of what we're doing, a part of our circle. But tonight I want to talk to you about shrinking your circle. Shrink your circle. Shrinking. I maybe should have put the title "Shrinking Your Circle." Many times people say, well, you only go as far as you should have people in your circle that are smarter than you. And I got all that. But I want to talk about this other side about shrinking the circle. You need to shrink your circle because a lot of times we let people in to our circles. We let people into our space that sometimes we have not discerned to understand that they are not there for any good. They're not there for the right purpose or the right meaning. And we are quick to let people in and we are allowing them to come in. And sometimes when they come in, they bring negative things with them, negative vibes. They bring things that can cause us heartaches and pain. And simply it's because we have not basically observed and looked, and we have not been the ones that have somewhat paid attention to those that we've allowed in. I know it is said, you see hear this a lot of times with older people where they would say, keep your enemies close. And I understand that, but I want to tell you that sometimes you've got to deal with the other side of that, and that is to shrink your circle. You got to shrink it. You gotta bring it in. It's too broad, and you've got to bring it in. I know that we've got sometimes you've got three circles. We deal with you've got a broad circle, then you've got that middle circle, and then you've got that inner circle. And so sometimes you've got to understand where people should be in that circle. You got to understand where they should be in that circle. Everyone does not belong in certain circles. And because we made it so big, and sometimes we removed the inner circle, we removed the middle part, and we just got a big circle and everyone's in it. And unfortunately, we've got to deal with the truth of the matter that everybody should not be in your circle. Some people don't deserve to be, and then some people, they're just the wrong people to be in, and you've got to understand that. So let me just share with you and give you a few things tonight that I'm going to share with you as we're talking. We're having a conversation, and that is number the one reason you want to shrink your circle is shrinking your circle can protect you. You've got to be able to understand. It's like you don't let everyone in your home. You don't let everyone in your space at your house, especially during this coronavirus. You don't let everyone in, even sometimes relatives you don't let in, but you don't let everyone into your space. Why? Because you have your space blocked off for a reason. And it is to protect you. It is to protect your loved ones. It is to protect those that you have. And so you can't allow everyone into your circle. It is to protect you. Sometimes you got to know who's coming in the door. That's the reason you have a peephole on your door. That's the reason you have an alarm system on your house. That's the reason you have cameras around your house so you can know who's coming in your house, who's coming in your circle. It is important for us to understand that I cannot always put that type of not responsibility, but that type of thing in the hands of somebody else to protect my circle. I've got to understand, I've got to shrink it where I know who's in that particular circle. So when I know what's going on and what's being said or whatever, I've got to protect myself by guarding that circle. And a lot of times we don't do that. We don't We don't shrink the circle. Our circles are so big, everyone's in it. And then once we sometimes get hurt and crushed, then we're going through change and we're upset. But we've got to deal with the fact that we've let people in that sometimes we shouldn't have let in. We shouldn't have let them in our circle like that. We shouldn't have let them in. The circle is to protect you and your loved ones and to protect those that are there. That's the purpose of that circle being. And so you've got to shrink it. You've got to shrink it. And I'm going to say that again. It's got to be shrunk. You got to shrink it, even though you want everyone in, even though some of us, we're trustworthy with everybody and we believe that they wouldn't do anything. You got to shrink your circle, because shrinking your circle can also find out where there's loyalty and where there's true friendship and where there are those that are really with you. So you have to shrink that circle. There comes a time you've got to shrink it. Well, number two, you can have an outer circle and still shrink your inner circle. You can have a circle that's big enough to include people, but you also have to shrink that inner circle enough that you know who's in, who's coming in, who's taking information out, who is what they're doing. You have to be able to control that. And a lot of times we don't control that. We've got people that we have, we've trusted too much in the inner circle, and the damage they do when they go out of that circle, then we're wondering, why, how did that happen? Is because we've allowed them in. And maybe they should have been on the outer part, but never have been on the in part or the inner circle. They shouldn't have been inside. They should have been on one of the others that they got some information, but not all the information or not all the stuff that is given out. We've got to understand that. You got to know what circle someone should be in. You've got to know what circle one should be a part of. Everybody is not. Okay, I'm getting in trouble, but I'm gonna say it. Everybody is not in a circle, people. There's some people you got to keep them on the outside, and you got to keep them where they are, because when they get in, they get information to get enough to take out, to do damage and hurt. And sometimes they don't even have the full story, but they can take it out and do stuff. But that's sometimes our fault, because we've let people in. We've broadened that thing so big that everybody's in. Now understand, if you got an inner circle, everyone has an inner circle. No one's trying to hide anything. No one's trying to keep things and be undercover, sweep things under the rug. And that's not always the case. That's sometimes how we think, but that's not always the case. Sometimes there's a group of people, whether they're family or whoever, that you trust with information, that you trust with things, that they have become somewhat of the people that you bounce stuff off of, and they're that inner circle. And so what has to happen is you've got to know when to start shrinking that. Sometimes we got the inner circle too big. Sometimes you got to slowly shrink it. Bring it in, just slowly bring it in. And so you can have control over who's in that space, who's in that, who's there in that. You got to be able to control that. And so understand, it is important for us to understand that it's not a negative thing to start shrinking your circle. That's whether it's the outer circle or whether it's the inner circle. It's not a bad thing to start shrinking your circle, to start bringing it in, because now it's, as you get older, time for a lot of foolishness and time for a lot of unnecessary stuff. I don't know about you. I just don't have time. So I began to shrink my circle. And there are those that are still in the circle. They just not in that particular circle. It's like being in where they're always talking about in the tax bracket. They talk about the higher income, then they talk about the middle class, and then lower income. Well, that's how circle is. I've got the outer circle where you only get in so far, and you can't get in past that particular part. I'll come out to see you, but I'm not bringing you inside. Then you've got the other circle. I'll come there, but now that inner circle has where they can probably get in touch and be where I'm there all the time. But you don't let everyone into the inner circle. And then some people take advantage. They don't understand how good they may have it by being in your inner circle, and then they do something that betrays your trust, and you don't let them in the inner circle anymore, or you shrink your circle and they're not a part of it anymore. That's not a bad thing. So you got to shrink your circle, and to do that. Now, number 3, shrinking your circle should help protect your vision and your dream. Sometimes you have to shrink your circle to protect your vision and your dream, because there's some people that will come in and get into the circle and they find out your visions, your dreams, or whatever, and then they go out and try to make them their vision and their dreams. So sometimes you have to be able to shrink that circle. Everyone is not to know everything and all those things and details about you. Sometimes you've got to deal with them where you shrink it. And I'm talking to somebody tonight, and I know I am. Those of you that are watching, and those of you that you may not be making no comments, but I know you're here. I need you to understand that sometimes you got to shrink it. Sometimes you shrink it. There are things that me and my family talk about that we don't discuss among anyone else. And when there's something that we need to talk about, I remember one time we needed to talk about something. We were coming from an event, and I needed to talk about something with my wife and my daughter, and we had a guest in the car. And so rather than talk about it, we talked about everything else. And then when that person left the car, then we talked about that we thought was personal concerning what the event or whatever had taken place. So we did not allow them to get into that so they can take information back and say, well, this is what I heard. Sometimes you got to know when, and sometimes you got to know when there are circle conversations, inner circle conversations that are not for everybody else. They're not for everyone else's ears. You can't put it out. And some of us, we hurt ourselves because we give people information that we shouldn't give them. And the reason we give it to them, because we've let them in, or we don't understand the difference between those that are loyal and faithful, and then those that are just there to gather information to take it back to others or take it back for themselves. So shrinking your circle can help you protect your vision and your dream. Some of you pastors, you find yourself better if you did not share everything that God gave you to do at your church. Because, of course, there's somebody that's going to take it and use it for their church and never acknowledge the fact that it came from you. They're going to make it seem like that this is something that just came fresh. The Lord just gave me this. And all of you know, and all of us know, when they got it and when they did it, that's not their vision. That's not even their dream. That's something they heard you or someone else say. So it protects your vision, protects your dream. You're right, Pastor Johnson, protect the circle. You got to protect. Everyone cannot get in to this inner circle. Everyone is not permitted into this inner circle. I'm not letting you in. And then, and as I start shrinking my circle, some people are probably going to be out of it. Don't mean I don't like you. Don't mean I don't, but there's something that deals with trust when you're in a circle. And when that trust is broken in that circle, then you approach things and people different once you've allowed them in and they've broken that trust. That's just the way it goes. It's not that I don't like you, I'll hold nothing against you. I may not trust you no more. And if I don't trust you, I can't let you in this inner circle, because there are things in this circle that I'm going to talk about that I don't want going to other people. And if you can't hold it, why should I keep you in here? So I'm learning to shrink my circle. Does it mean I'm going to have less friends? Maybe. Does it mean less people are going to deal with it? Possibly. It could mean that, but At the end of the day, it means I'm shrinking this circle and doing what I have to do. So now understand, here's the thing. Number four, and I'm going to close with this. You should, in shrinking your circle, you should only allow the people that need to be there from the start or whatever you're doing, where you're going to build a foundation. Some people are foundational people. They're with you. They're going to be with you. They're going to stick with you. I'm not talking about yes people. I'm not talking about people that just agree with everything you say. No, I'm not talking about everyone disagree with everything I say. You just agree. No, not talking about those. You need some people in your circle that'll say, I don't think we should do that, or I disagree with that. And we can do that respectively. We can be respectful when we do it. But we have to understand that you can't, we're going to build a foundation and we're going to deal with this foundational thing. Let's start to deal with it with the right people in our circle. We got to start dealing with the right people in our circle. I don't need you around me and you can't be trusted. Listen, I've got something, and if you can look it up on I don't know, this was a documentary that they did when President Obama was president. And so I don't know if you can find it on YouTube or if you can even find it. I forgot what channel even did it, but it was such a powerful documentary that I actually taped it and put it on DVD to keep personally for me. And this is what it's called. I hope you can see this. It's called The Presidents, and it's called Gatekeepers. If you can find this anywhere, if you can watch it, it was done 2 nights. It's a part 1. I got part 1 and part 2. The Presidents, the Gate. It's called Gatekeepers. It was one of the most powerful things I had ever seen when it dealt with the inner circle, when it dealt with things dealing with circles, when it comes to the president, because the president has valuable information, and around him, they have to surround themselves. They have Secret Service agents. They have those that are around them that surround them, and there's probably information that's not for everyone's ears. And those men are sworn to secrecy, or they're sworn that they have to keep certain conversations or whatever. And even there are things that they classify as top secret things that they're getting ready to do, maybe to go in and invade something or whatever. Those things have to be kept. Every now and then you have someone in that inner circle that puts out and leaks information, and it causes an uproar. It causes something that shouldn't be done because somebody in that inner circle didn't know how to keep their mouth closed. And they put the information out there. Now you've got a possible thing that could be a national security breach or thing. But so they have to carefully go through and vet and do all of those things to see those persons who will be handling information or being around the president or whoever there is, because there's a circle, and we can't just say it was with the president now. Y'all call him 45 so much I forgot his name that quick. That's funny. Okay, that's real. That's a senior moment, probably, I guess. And that's funny. I still can't remember his name. Trump. I'm sorry. I can remember his name, saved my life. But anyway, that's not just with President Trump. Every president. And when I looked at this powerful documentary, every one of them talked about being in that circle, whether they were secretaries of state or whatever, and sometimes how they had to approach certain things with the president, whether they had to approach it in a serious manner or whatever, even if they felt it was going to cause them to have problems. And some of them even did not stay. They resigned from certain positions because they say they just couldn't do it. But it gives us to understand that there are circles that cannot be broken. Let's see, Christian. How about if you have someone In the circle who lets it stay because of longevity of relationship. Uh, well, sometimes they can be in there because of longevity and the relationship. And there's some hard decisions you have to make. Sometimes you have to pray about it. Then there's some hard decisions you just got to make, especially when the things they do, no matter how long they've been there, is to your detriment. Uh, that's the thing that we've got to understand. Sometimes people do things. Now, there are two types of people, and you have to deal with both of them differently. There's one type of person that may not know because they're in the inner circle. They may not understand certain things that they are not supposed to do. Those persons, you can sit down and have conversations with them, talk with them, and let them know what to do and what not to do. And most of the time, that'll solve that issue. But then you got another type of person that they already know. They're only there and to get close enough so they can cause havoc or to do things. And you've got to know if you got discernment, when you see that, then you've got to know when to shrink that circle and in a slow way, start to get them out of that circle. Start to just move them slowly out. And again, you can do it and still communicate with them, but there's certain privileges and certain information that they don't have, they're not privy to anymore. It's like in the nations, in the capital and stuff, they'll tell you that, they have, how is it? They've taken away a person's ability or access to see certain documents. Don't mean they don't still work there, but they've taken away their access to see certain documents. Why? Because either they breached something or they just taken away their privileges because they no longer need to do that. Sometimes don't mean you have to be nasty to a person. Just means you got to know what information they should get and what information they shouldn't get. And once you discover that and find that out, your life is going to be better because you got to shrink that circle. I've said many times, and I do it as much as possible. I've got a circle, inner circle. All of us have it, not just church, even in your life, even in families. You got inner circle people that you talk to about certain things. Why? Because you've got that inner circle. Then you've got a broader circle that you may laugh and talk with them, but they don't get no personal information. You don't tell them stuff. And even though they may be picking, trying to pull it out of you, you still don't do it. I work with, I work with my leader, and I'm one of on what we call the inner circle, one administrative assistant. And so he'll call a meeting and he'll say, I'm going to talk to you all about something, and this is just for the people in this room. And if I hear it again, I'm going to know it came from somebody in this room. And we've had times when we've had those meetings and then someone to come along and say, well, what was the meeting about? I can't tell you. Well, did y'all talk about this? I can't tell you that either. I'm in there in the circle. And I don't want my name to be attached to the fact that somebody said, well, Martin said. No, Martin didn't say anything. Because I understand being that privilege of being in the inner circle to get that information and to even make decisions and to help make decisions is something that none of us should take lightly. And so when you start doing this, Pastor Johnson said the taker gets upset because they lost their privilege. Sometimes they do. And they lose those privileges, and that's just a part of what it is. And then here's another thing. Sometimes when people lose privileges, then they'll start attacking you because they lost the privilege. And that's unfortunate, but that is the truth. They'll start attacking you because they lost the privilege. And because, now you're bad. You're the worst thing that ever happened. And you just, oh my God, and you this and you that. No, I was good until your privileges got cut off. And now all of a sudden, I'm terrible. I'm looking for something if I can find it, I wrote down and I can't find it, but let me seeking to find it here. I'm gonna seeking I got it on a piece of paper. It's actually a scripture I'm looking for. But if I don't get it tonight, I'll make sure I get it and drop it in the comments. But what it simply says is, now am I your enemy because I tell you the truth? You know, a lot of people, they're fine as long as you don't deal with them in truth. When you start talking about truth things and truthful things, then all of a sudden they get upset and now you become their enemy. You the worst person in the world. And then you ain't no good. You ain't never been no good. Well, like I tell people, and some pastors can identify with this, you know, people like, oh, that pastor ain't good. He ain't this, he ain't that. They were good enough when they were paying your rent. They were good enough when they were burying your dead without being compensated for it. They were good enough when they were going to get your children out of jail. They were good enough when they were paying stuff for you. But now, since you are upset and you're maybe not in like you thought you were on the inside, now they the worst person in the world, and they this, they, and they that. Now am I your enemy because I tell you the truth? Come on. I mean, you know, we got to, you got to deal, and you got to protect your circle, protect yourself, because this is a vicious day. People do all kind of crazy stuff, and they have no regard for your family, your friends, or even you. So you got to shrink your circle to protect your name. And I hear other people use this term, your brand or whatever. You got to shrink that circle, shrink the outer, the inner circle, the middle, just shrink it, and know who's there. I close with this. I know who's in my house. There's not a time that I don't know who's coming through my front door. There's not a time that no one can just come in my front door without me knowing they're there. I know when they come in. I know when they come in. Do you hear what I'm saying? I know when they get in. I know when they come in. And I know who's there. No one comes to an event, if I'm having it at my house, that I didn't invite. You just don't show up, because I know who's coming in my house. Why do I know who's coming in my house? Because I know who to invite to my house, because I know what type of, and I'm going to say this and I want you to hear what I'm saying. I know what type of spirits and what type of attitude that people bring that can linger in your house. So I have to know the people that's coming to my house. So I'll know what type of spirit they bring to my house. So I just don't take it lightly to go to or have someone to come to my house. I got to know who's coming through the front door. And there have been times that people, they come in. I go out and talk to them. That's not everybody, but some people I don't know you like that. And I don't need you coming in my house and going back and all they house did. I don't need that. So I mean, that's just me. Now you can do what you want to do. I just don't let everybody in my house. Same way with my church. I don't let everybody in my pulpit. I don't have anything personal against people. I just don't do it. I mean, and if you want to do it, that's fine. But some people bring attitude and spirits and stuff, and you got to watch that circle. You got to know who's in it. And if you know that, you're going to be better. Listen, I've been on here longer than I wanted to be, but I pray and trust that you have got something out of this tonight. I want to encourage you. I'm not trying to cause any divisions, but I want y'all to be mindful, but, be watchful and pray. And shrink your circle. Start shrinking. Some of you got to shrink your circle. You're gonna find out that that you're gonna have less problems. You're gonna have less headaches. You're gonna be able to deal with life better. Things are gonna go a whole lot better for you when you start shrinking that circle making it smaller, not letting everybody in. I love you. I appreciate you, but there's certain circles that everybody can't get in. I'm just not letting you in. Do that mean I think I'm better than you? No, not at all. I don't even have that type of spirit. I just have to understand that everyone just can't be in my circle because you can get bit. And let me say that. You can get bit by people. And sometimes you wondering, where did it come from? Now let me help you out. And I must close. Sometimes, if someone in the inner circle is the one that's causing problems, you can always tell because it's got to be someone close enough. And I used to say this to my pastor all the time, the Bishop Pace. We had conversations like this. And I used to say to him all the time, I said, Bishop, can't no one hurt you like maybe I can hurt you. And we started laughing. He said, why? I said, because I'm in the inner circle. So if I'm in the inner circle, people are more likely to listen at me say something about you than they are to listen at anybody else. That's why you have to protect your inner circle. That's the reason you've got to keep it covered. Keep it protected. Don't let everybody in. And keep your circle. Shrink it. You ain't going to die. They're not going to die. And they'll get over it. Sometimes you got to do what's best for you. All right? All right, I'm out of here. Thank you so much for joining me. I pray and trust again that you got some out of this on tonight. I pray that you will move further in what you're doing and shrinking your circle and getting done what needs to be done. The Lord bless you and the Lord keep you. Thank you again. Please share this with somebody. Thank you again for joining me on this Thursday night. I pray that all God's choice blessings will be yours. Have a wonderful night. Bless you.